Welcome to the Wednesday meditation. I always do a call and response. I'll sing a line and then you repeat it. And if you would like a name called out at the time that we do the prayer list, you can put the name on a piece of paper that's by the prayer box and put it into the prayer box. And while Jack is speaking, I'll come and pick it up. There's just such an energy in having the name called out. And so many people have talked about major things that have happened, like the next day when the name has been called out. So we're gathered here to be channels for the light. And it's such a blessing to be part of this ministry, and for all the ministries all over the country that take the time to really remember who we are, who we're connected to, how close the divine is with us. Every time we do anything, that divine is in us. We have a chance to now become quiet and let that force take over and make us stronger and want to rely on it more and more and more. So. I open to love. Inside, waiting for me. I open to love. Inside, waiting for me. To free me up. To free me up. To the friend I want to be. To the friend I want to be. I open to love. Inside, waiting for me. Inside. To free me up. To free me up. To the friend I want to be. To the friend I want to be. Oh. to bring love to all, to divine love to all, divine love to all, to spread the word, to spread the word that we are all one, that we are all one. I open to love, inside waiting for me, inside waiting for me, to free me up, to free me up, to the friend I want to be, to the friend I want to be. Love is the source of all life. 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 Love is the source of all life.
Good evening, everyone. On Sunday, I said that there's no way to get ahead. And that is because everything is actually a projection of awareness, or one's awareness. With that idea comes an understanding that there's never any reason to be in a hurry. And these are difficult things for us to embrace, because we live or were born and raised in a different paradigm, a different dimension. You know, today they use terms like the third dimension and moving to the fourth or fifth dimension, but that's kind of abstract stuff. In the third dimension that they're talking about, we're in a state of separation, and time has a different significance in this state than it does in the higher levels of awareness. So, with the idea that we cannot get ahead, we also don't have to hurry. This is a difficult idea. I remember some incidents with people that became extremely irate when they were trying to force something to be accomplished, and it wasn't going to happen that way. I've had certain situations like that with people. We used to have a young man that was trying to become, or trying to get his green card here in America, and we were trying to help him out by giving him some work to do. But he was so locked into trying to force things to happen, it was an impossible thing to watch. You know, he had simple stuff to do, like we had an electric screw gun with a Phillips head on it, and he was supposed to put together this box that we were going to use for the one production. It was a pretty simple thing to do. So you had this box, you put the top on it, and you're going to screw the top down so people could stand on it. But every time he would try to screw something in, he would just about put the electric screw gun on the screw head and then push it with all of his might immediately, instead of waiting till he had the feeling and could slowly move that screw into the wood. And he kept doing this, and no matter what you said to him, was not capable of getting through. But I'm saying that to some degree, because we're raised in this concept of getting ahead, we believe if somehow or other we get ahead, we have time for ourselves, the time to do something we'd rather be doing than what we are doing. You will know you're enlightened, by the way, when you're doing whatever you're doing in the same equanimity, state of consciousness, peace, and harmony as whatever else you're doing. There's nothing that you're doing that is less important or more important than anything else. If you're doing it and you're called to do it and you've decided to do it or you're in the process of doing it, it is because you are now in alignment with what is being done. The doer and that being done is no longer separate. Your mind is not in the whole concept of getting through this and getting over this and getting beyond this to get ahead of this. It's not there. And it's only the ego-centered consciousness that we were conditioned to live in for such a long period of time that holds us in this limited way of conducting our lives. So we have to be able to see through that. And Eckhart Tolle has a number of different statements and exercises he calls us to do in order to be aware when we're resisting the now. When we are resisting the now moment, we have to tune in every now and then and ask ourselves, where does this anxiety come from? Where is this frustration coming from? Where is this feeling of wanting to get out of this or through this or beyond this? Where does it come from? And it comes from wanting to be somewhere else, wanting to do something else. That's an unenlightened state of consciousness, whether you know it or not. Because especially in the Western culture, it is always in the consciousness of people that getting more done and getting it done quicker is really the way to become successful. Getting more done and getting it done quicker is the way to become successful. But you're not having any successful moments. You're not having any successful now experiences. You're not having any of the joy, peace that resolves with aligning oneself with what is in this moment. So it's incumbent upon us to understand that we're out of sync with life, if that's the case. There are people in unity that are living in the now moment, practicing it so thoroughly and enjoying it. But we have to understand that that is the goal of spiritual practice. It seems to us, because the world is so much with us, that spiritual practice would have something to do with getting the world to operate in accordance with our desires and get us personal fulfillment and ego-centered gratitudes, what we want. Those things are from the thinking of the world. But if you want to find life and find it abundantly, then you have to really begin to catch yourself when you're rushing, when you're struggling, when you're resisting, when you're fearing, when you're not present. You have to recognize that and realize you really don't want to be doing this. So let's start from the very beginning thought as the teachings attempt to awaken us. From the very first chapter of the Bible, Genesis, then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. He created him. Male and female, he created them. And God blessed them. We can see from this, this is the beginning of the story of the Garden of Eden. We can see how this was the beginning. This was the will of God, that man would have dominion, And we assume dominion means control, but it actually doesn't. Dominion means alignment with everything else that's alive. It means alignment with everything that is alive. So it doesn't mean controlling, owning, and manipulating, and doing what we do to all the different life forms in order to try to improve our own species, our own way of life. But we did have dominion, and of course the story goes on to see how mankind fell from that initial state of awareness in the Garden of Eden, which means the Garden of Delight, or the Garden of Light, or the Garden of Enlightened Joy and Peace. Can you see, there's a difference between fun and frolic and enlightened joy and peace. One is something that happens on a strange time under some circumstances. But the enlightened joy and peace are something that is continual. It's a continual state of awareness that derives from being in alignment again with the will of God. So, in a sense, what we have done is we're no longer being driven by the ideas that came into us from the world. You look at so much of the media, the movies, and you see how it's all about being smarter than the next guy, stronger than the next person, able to manipulate, able to cheat, steal, get what you want from the physical world, regardless of how it affects anything else around you. Well, that whole concept of getting ahead, of being better, of winning, is different than being in a state of divine consciousness. So there is a letting go of a certain thinking that's been inculcated in our awareness. We have to know this. We have been badly taught, and we have been badly conditioned to try to live effectively. You can't live effectively in the outer-directed thinking of the world. So we have to transcend or overcome the world. And this is what Jesus is talking about. In the world you will always have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And so we're in the process of following that truth. To overcome the world is to overcome the ego-centered driving consciousness of the thinking of the world. And of course, that's not the easiest thing to do. But it is the reason why we are here. It is the reason why we can become eventually divine beings, knowing and operating in divine alignment with the omnipresent will of God, which is love and joy and peace. And in doing that, having everything we need on the physical level, because we are so in harmony with everything else that blessings come to us. We don't have to chase them. We don't have to try to grasp them. We don't have to try to manipulate to get them or deceive to own them. So I might be talking to some of you that know this fully, and some of you that know it partially, and some of you that just simply think, gee, that's too strange for me. That's too strange for me. I remember when I was first getting started with the Association for Research and Enlightenment in New York City. We had a very small, dilapidated couple of rooms up in this rather limited neighborhood. And I remember we used to go down to this coffee shop after we did a lot of the meditation and study and dream interpretation. Some of us would go down to a coffee shop and discuss things. And we had a young man who came. He said an interesting thing. A young man who had just gotten out of the service, the military. And he came up and he shared, he was in a group with us, and he went through it and he said, wow, you know, he came to the coffee shop and said, wow, that was really, I don't think I've felt as much peace and happiness as I did in that meditation circle. But I can't come back, he said, because I've got a lot of living to do. And in a sense, what he's going to have to do, he's going to have a lot of dying to do. He's going to have to die to the concepts that the outer-directed world holds something he can get that's going to be as peaceful or as fulfilling. And he will not find it, ever. Nobody will. Nobody ever has. So it's so interesting when we talk about aligning ourselves with the will of God, because it doesn't seem to be all that difficult. Just listen to this from A Course in Miracles. God's will is your salvation. Would he not have given you the means to find it? If he wills you have it, he must have made it possible and easy to obtain it. Your brothers and sisters are everywhere. You do not have to seek far for salvation. Every minute and every second gives you a chance to save yourself. Do not lose these chances, not because they will not return, but because delay of joy is needless. God wills you perfect happiness now. Is it possible that this is not also your will? And is it possible that this is not also the will of your brothers and sisters? Consider then that in this joint will you are all united, and in this only. There may be disagreement on anything else, but not on this. This then is where peace abides, and you abide in peace when you so decide. Yet you cannot abide in peace unless you accept the at-one-ment, because the at-one-ment is the way to peace. If you're not used to reading A Course in Miracles, this can seem somewhat difficult to grasp. I'm going to read it again and see what part of it you can align yourself with. God's will is your salvation. Would he not have given you the means to find it? If he wills you to have it, he must have made it possible and easy to obtain it. Your brothers and sisters are everywhere. You do not have to seek for salvation. Every minute and every second gives you a chance to save yourself. That means that in every minute, in any given situation, under any given experiences, you can enter the state of salvation. But that means you would enter that state of the now, where you would surrender getting your own way, getting things done quickly, getting them done right, being considered smarter, better, more important. Surrendering those things for being present in the moment to serve what is required by the moment. So there's no limited, separate, ego-centered self carping in your mind to get on with this, to get out of this, to get beyond this. You simply are there to serve just whatever needs your attention, needs your service, needs what you are there to give. So it goes on to say, every minute and every second gives you a chance to save yourself. Do not lose these chances, not because they will not return, but because delay of joy is needless. God wills you perfect happiness now. Is it possible that this is not also your will? And is it possible that this is not also the will of your brothers and sisters? What it's asking us, is it possible that you really don't want this enough to practice the presence of God? Is it possible? Well, there's definitely a lot of people that are not want to do the practice that's required to recognize and experience the joy of being one with the will of God in every single moment. There are those people that really are hung up on the idea of being more important, getting more, having better than anybody else. And that actually deprives them of the peace of mind that no one can have happiness without. Can you imagine that the kingdom of heaven, you could be in the kingdom of heaven without peace of mind? Can you imagine you could be in the consciousness of heaven, which is what we're talking about, without peace of mind? Can you imagine having peace of mind by being self-centered, frustrated and angry by trying to get what you personally want from other people and conditions and circumstances? Can you imagine that would be a heavenly state of consciousness? Only in the madness of the world and the media of the world does anything like that prevail. So it goes on to say, consider then that in this joint will, that is, your joint will with your brothers and sisters everywhere, you are all united, and in this only. There may be disagreement on anything else, but not on this. This then is where peace abides, and you abide in peace when you so decide. Yet you cannot abide in peace unless you accept the at-one-ment, because the at-one-ment is the way to peace. So let me try to explain the unexplainable. To accept the at-one-ment is to accept that you can't get ahead of anything because your present state of consciousness is being projected from within you. Your in-look, your collection of beliefs and ideas and definitions of life are centered in your subconscious awareness. And what you're looking at is what you've painted over everything you're looking upon. You're not looking at the reality of people. You're not seeing the reality of the situation because you're looking through your belief systems. And so the at-one-ment means you're accepting the whole idea that you are one with everything you look upon. And if you want to find happiness, peace, you practice looking upon everything with love, compassion. This is the way we do it. And this is the way we come into enlightened awareness. Everything that we are looking upon is there by virtue of the beliefs we hold and have been conditioned that are deeply ingrained within us. You're painting the characters of everyone in your life around you. If you see them as loving, caring, giving, serving people, it is because you have arrived at that place and you are there and willing to be there. If you don't see people like that in your experience around you, it is because you still have work to do. Because your still ego-centered idea of things is that you know what is just and what is needed and what is right. And you're not at all surrendered to the will of God, which is that you should be considerate, compassionate, forgiving, and open-minded in your relationship to everything that lives, because it is sacred. It is also God. So I'm going to conclude this with this statement here from Stillness Speaks. No, I'm not going to even use this because it'll just take us further into Tolle's deep thoughts about the now, and we're already deep in the thoughts about the now. What is necessary for us this evening is to know that spiritual practice, which includes meditation, is not the only practice that we're involved in. The objective really is to carry this sublime consciousness we feel when we absolutely feel okay. And it has nothing to do with what's going on physically. It has to do with what we are willing to be okay with ourselves. And if we are okay with ourselves, it is because we've decided to be, listen to it. Who did that? Who decided to be okay with everything they look upon? Who decided to do that? I got up today and I decided to be okay with everyone and everything I look upon. And not to be at odds with it, not to be in conflict with it, not to be in judgment of it, not to be fighting it, not to be controlling it, not to try to fix it, but to just be okay with it and flow with it and bless and bestow peace with it. I decided to do that, and I feel so good because now I am fulfilling my destiny and my return to the will of God. So this evening again we will allow ourselves to feel good just by listening to these bowls. The mind may chatter away, saying, oh, we're just sitting here wasting time. To some degree, we could be doing something else. Or maybe you're thinking about going out to dinner after this. But if you will allow yourself to relax and become present where you are, in this sanctuary, seated, okay with what is going on, just okay with the bowls being played, okay with the meditation being guided, and okay with what's happening. And if you can do that here, eventually you learn how to do it under all circumstances. Just to know that you're okay. There's no guilt, there's no judgment. There's no separate God holding you to do what's supposed to be done. You decide that you're just going to enjoy this beautiful moment, wanting nothing, grasping nothing, fearing nothing, just allowing the moment to be what it is. If you don't have a particular meditation technique, when we get to the place of silence, you may want to just use this type of prayerful mantra. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God waiting for me. Everything I look upon, everything I see is only God waiting for me. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with a greater determination to practice the presence. And for this opportunity in every moment, we feel gratitude, and to this we say, Amen. Let us take a few moments to pray for those whose names have been submitted to our prayer list. And being in this refined state of consciousness, we merely have to allow the name to move into our awareness. And we'll just use one word, blessings. As you hear the name, just let the thought, blessings, go to the name.
Maurice, Lawrence, Maurice Smith, Bernadette Hollowhorn, Lene, The Human Race, Kai V, Sandy Spahn, Dennis Dooley, Steve Taylor, Annie Raines, Nicole W., Bonnie McDonald, Hank Gonzalez, Helen Smith, Santisha, Cozy the dog, Daniel Rivard, Sherry Elford, Davion Elford, Benny Elford, Tracy McIntyre and family, Sandy Chamberlain, Jan DeVille, Sandy Perko, Ying Imid, Carmen, Pam Paul, Patrick Lawlor, the United States government, all COVID patients and helpers, the air, water, earth, all life on planet Earth. And you can call out a name at this time if you would like to.
Mira Morrison, Larry Morrison, Don Barchet, his partner, T. Matthew.
You see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the people's names that have been submitted. We see them healed physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let us become keenly aware that we are all interconnected by the light, allowing more light to come into our consciousness spreads to everyone. As we do that, we heal the collective consciousness of humanity. So let us feel this divine light presence, bringing the ideal of wholeness and peace to everyone sharing this Boulder community with us. And this divine light awareness spreading into the consciousness of everyone sharing the state of Colorado with us. And this refined light consciousness moving into the awareness and the consciousness of everyone sharing these United States of America with us. And so it is that this divine awareness moves into the awareness of every single person on planet Earth, creating the new heaven in Earth, and a harmony established with all creation, with all the creatures on the planet, all the marine life, all the waterways, all the forests and trees and deserts, all experiencing this rejuvenation in the awareness that it is all the presence of God. As we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. To this we say, Amen. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We will take an offering for unity, and we'll do it in our COVID fashion, restriction, to bring to mind that financial gift you'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. And you can make a physical gift by check or using your credit card in the dip jar out in the lobby. But you can also tune into unityofboulder.com. There are numerous ways to make a donation to this ministry. So let us bring to mind this financial gift we'd like to give to Unity of Boulder, and let's bless it with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
Yo ho, ogani yo we ya ogani we ya gai na ya hey ya we da hey yo we ya hey ya. Oh God, no way, ya, God, now ya, hey ya. Oh,
So it is. Sunday we'll have our regular 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. service with Santisha. And she has a women's group studying the book now. Can they sign up for that in the bookstore tonight? No, we don't have anybody here.
no.
What was that? I did not understand a single word you just said.
It's
Oh, it's full. Thank you.
That works.
All right. Thank
We are
you.
doing the grounds cleanup on Saturday morning.
Oh, that's a good one, yes. We're going to be doing the cleaning up the landscaping, some trimming and stuff like that, but also cleaning up the landscaping and the grounds. We were going to do the weeding in the garden, but that has already been done in the garden, so we need as many people to show up. What was
They're
that?
like leprechauns. They just kind of.
Okay. All right.
There's always more grass that needs to be.
All right. There's always something to be done also in the
And
garden.
so if you, we have some supplies, but if you want to bring your own tools,
Yeah,
That's probably helpful that you like
hedge
to.
clippers, things like that, and weeding devices. And that'll take place at 10 o'clock on Saturday. As usual, we'll have bagels and cream cheese and tea and coffee for those that show up and want to hang out. And to everyone, good night.